Who sings?
Ay, vamos.
All right. Hi, everybody. My name is Ana Tapelo Garcia. We're going to get started in just a few moments. We're going to give people an opportunity to join us here today. We're super excited that we have a session that we're calling Latinas Leading the Way. And you can see there's a number of amazing people that are on the panel. And I will give it another 10 seconds or so before we get started. Thank you so much.
Now we do need the music.
Music would be amazing. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And again, my name is Ana Tapelo Garcia. We're having a really important conversation in honor of Women's History Month. And our title for our session today is Latinas Leading the Way. While I am not Rep, as you can see, the incredible person who organized today's event, I'm deeply honored to step in as your moderator for this session. I am the founder and president of Lean In Latinas. We are a Lean In global affinity network with members across the country and the world. Globally, over 100,000 women have started Lean In circles in 183 countries, empowering women Latinas to learn, grow, and support each other. Lean In Latinas is a professional women's organization to advance women in the workplace, and I'm really thrilled to be here with you. REF wanted to bring forward some of the most influential and powerful Latinas showcasing what greatness looks like, and I couldn't agree more with who we have with us today. And the goal of today's session is to not only highlight these exceptional Latina leaders, but also to inspire us all to take bold action in advancing our community. Additionally, we want to help allies better understand how they can lean in and support all of us. In fact, Latinas contributed a remarkable $1.3 trillion to the U.S. GDP in 2021. Our economic output is growing faster than that of non-Hispanic women and outpacing the growth of other population segments. Latinas make up 85% of REF's Latino Leadership Club cohorts, consistently taking ownership at all levels of the workforce. And we are super excited that we can continue to advance our community. We cherish conversations like these, but now it's time to turn words into action and our actions into lasting results. Okay, so for all of you that have joined us, please share with us in the chat who you are and where you might be calling from. We welcome that. And also, as we go through the discussion, feel free to share your thoughts about what's being shared with you today. But let's dive in. But first, we'll do that by first giving each panelist an opportunity to introduce herself. So I'll go ahead and get started with Ruby.
All right. Hello. I'm so glad to be here with these Mujeres Poderosas. I'm Ruby Garcia, she, her, hers. I'm a leadership and visibility coach, speaker, hypnotherapist, and contributing author, first gen Mexican American, was the first to go to college, first to work in the corporate setting, and first to become an entrepreneur. I'm also part of the disabled community and a mom of two. I absolutely, I was someone who grew up in a bicultural home and struggled with identity. And so it's been wonderful to connect with other first gen professionals and leaders. And I'm just excited to be in this space with all of you today.
Gracias, Ruby. Sandra.
I'm Sandra Noemi Torres. I am Puerto Rican descent. I am a business coach. I run an organization called United Latinas. Some of you know of it. We are a global organization as well. We have members across the United States, as well as Italy, Spain, and South America. And we support the visibility of Latinas by educating them with public speaking training, leadership development skills, and business coaching so that we can grow and flourish our businesses. Latinas start businesses 6 times faster. We want to keep those businesses in business. So we do a lot of coaching and consulting for those businesses. My son, just to throw in that, I do have one son. He's 29 years old. People always are shocked when they hear that, but and I look forward to being part of this panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Sandra. Okay, why don't we go to Jenny?
Hello, my name is Jennifer Lopez, and that's the name. I help people unleash and discover their superpowers and share them with the world. And I do that via keynote speaking and also coaching. So I work a lot with people who are doing these transformational career changes and people who are starting businesses. I'm also the author of Intentional Unicorn. And let me see, proud mama of two. Sandra, I'm also from Puerto Rico, Mayagüez, Puerto Rico, super proud, yay. And I bring a lot of energy, as you can tell, but also 24 years of experience as an executive leader in Fortune 500 company and also professional dancer. So now you got a little bit.
You really are, Jennifer. You really are, J-Lo.
I don't sing that well, though, but she doesn't either.
Thank you so much for being here. I love that. Melanie, should I call you Dr. Rodriguez?
Melanie works, but soy Doctora Melanie Rodriguez. Hi, everybody. I am based in Houston. I am the CEO and founder of Elevate Latinas. So I am a business consulting group that does executive coaching, leadership development, and inclusion work nationally. And I have the opportunity to also be a contributing author. I've worked with Ref and a few others on some amazing literature behind not only Latina leadership and empowerment, understanding Latino leadership characteristics, but also a lot of my work tends to aim at understanding inclusive work environments. So I also operate in the environment of working with companies and organizations, teams on creating inclusive leadership and understanding what that looks like for each and every one of us. I also identify as a part of the LGBTQIA community. My wife and I have 2 kids, teenagers, so teenage, preteen, so please help me with any advice. I will take it.
Thank you so much. And I love that people are contributing to the chat. So for those of you who are on, please tell us who you are, where you're coming in from. We have people from Texas. I love that. NYC. Thank you, Cindy, for being here. We got Monica. So please keep having that your comments coming in. So I'm going to dig right into our first question on Latinas Leading the Way. So I'm going to look to Sandra and Ruby to answer this first question. But if anybody else wants to jump in there, feel free. All right. So the first question, can you tell us what excites you most about being a strong Latina leader and how you hope to inspire other Latina leaders or emerging Latina leaders?
Ruby, do you want to go first or?
I'll let you take it and then I'll follow it.
That's an interesting question. I think intrinsically when I think of being, what excites me about being, I think I'm just proud of our culture and our community. I think that is the most important part. I'm just proud of my roots, where the values that I've gained, the mindset that I've developed over the years, and that ideally gives me that sense of freedom and sense of self-worth. And I think, I hope to inspire people through that. I hope to inspire the community. I hope to inspire others to own their identity, to wherever lot in life you have, just to own who you are, learn from the lessons that you have gained in life, and use that as your superpower, use that as your ammo to change the world in your sphere, right? So that's what excites me, the possibility of what we can do for the world.
I love that you shared that, because what I think about, even in my own journey, is getting really to a place of feeling loud and proud of who we are. And, really, recognizing that diversity really adds to the workplace. It's not a takeaway, it's an add, even though we know there's a lot going on right now in the political environment, but I just love that. And to own who you are. I love that. So Ruby.
Yeah, I mean, there is so much pride. And I think the thing that excites me the most is just how powerful we are individually, but then collectively, when we pull that power together, it just creates magic. And that's what I love. I love being around Latinas. I love being in spaces. I surround myself with Latinos all the time. Sometimes I feel like I probably need to break out of that, but it's just because there is so much there's so much understanding. Right. And I mean, I was in the corporate space for, 15 plus years. And a lot of times I was the only Latina. And I thought I was the only one going through some of the struggles and challenges. And then when I started realizing, oh, I'm not the only one, there's other people, like that sense of shared experiences, of lived experiences, of not having to explain to my friends why I couldn't go to a sleepover or why I still had to report to my parents, even though I was, beyond 18 years old. Like other people just understood that. And so I think what I'm really excited for Latinas right now, or what I'm kind of seeing and experiencing is not only Latinas like holding on to their cultural values and their roots, but it's also redefining what leadership looks like for them and redefining what success looks like for them. So rather than feeling like it's a either or I can only be this one way at work and be this other way at home. It's kind of like right now, what I'm seeing is that people are picking what works for them from both sides, from the American culture and from their Latinidad, and redefining it for themselves. And it looks different for each of us. But I think that is something that is it allows us to be fully expressed. It allows us to be in our power. It allows us to use our voice, and it allows us to tell our story. And that's what I'm excited about, is seeing, Latinas breaking barriers, creating new opportunities, collaborating with each other. I love collaboration. That's something that always really excites me. So to Sandra's point, there's a lot of possibilities right now.
And I think it's more important than ever, of just really showing up. And not only showing up as Latina leaders in the work that we do for the current generation, but even the future generation. Like one thing that I sort of sit with is the fact for the State of Latinas in Corporate America report, I was one of the contributing writers to that report, and it was published by the Lean In organization and McKinsey. Latinas represent only 1% of executive roles across corporate America. So our future Latina community is going to need leaders like us who will rise, who will be loud and proud, and who will show up, because we have to change those numbers. Thank you for that.
And if I could just add, I
Yes,
want to
please.
touch on what you said earlier of, we're in kind of some crazy times right now, right? There's a lot of stuff that's going on within the political environment, within different industries, in society in general. And there is so much more visibility now to Latinas, right? When I was back in the day, when I was going through it, there was not a lot of visibility into what Latina leadership looked like. And so I didn't necessarily have those role models. Like I think a lot of us have heard, if you can't see it, it's harder to be it. And I think the state of the environment now is causing people to look for that more, and for people to speak up more and to be more visible. And Ruby does some amazing work with her visibility seminars, and as does Jenny and Sandra and all of the, there's a lot of great work that's out there. And I can really appreciate the fact that it's not, these women are not gatekeeping. We're not trying to, put it behind a, huge fee or closed doors or whatever. There's so much that's out there right now to support other Latinas in becoming more visible, because it takes a lot. And, me now in my mid to late 40s has a much stronger voice than I did when I was starting in the workforce as the first gen white collar person, coming in at 21 or 20, whatever it was, right?
Yeah, you make a good point about supporting. The very fact that we're all here together is a visual representation of supporting each other, which definitely needs to continue. And thank you for those of you who are making comments here. There's a lot of, more Chicago. We've got other people here. So thank you so much. We appreciate it. I want to go ahead and move to the next question, which is, can you tell us about the strengths and powers of Latinas that everyone should know about? What do you think is different for Latina leaders? And I'm actually going to go to Jenny, and then I'll go to Melanie, and then whoever else wants to add.
I love to talk about that. And I'm going to jump into what Dr. Melanie just said, that, back in the day, there was not a lot of role models, yes. And I don't like to say Latinas equals this, because we're just a beautiful combination of many things, and each of us have our own superpowers that I call. But there's still an element, a cultural element of this charisma and energy that characterizes us, and also resilience. So that's a little bit something that we share in common. But something I always say is, understand what are your superpowers, because that's where you shine at your best. And I'll tell you a quick story back to what Dr. Melanie said. I didn't have the role model. And then in top of that, people will say, Jenny, you don't dress like an engineer. You empower your employees too much. You have to tone it down. You have to be serious. You're too nice. You smile too much. You don't look smart. I can keep going, right? So I tried to change who I was to fill the mold, because I thought that was it. Like, I fit the mold, I do work hard, and then I'm going to reach success. And I got lost because that wasn't me, right? And just like the group here was saying, leadership comes in different flavors. So I think that's whenever I say, you know what, when I'm my energetic self, that's whenever I do my best job. I'm going to live with that. I'm going to live with that. I'm going to become the role model I didn't have. I'm not saying role model, I'm perfect, but at least understand that you can be bubbly, you can be energetic, you can be colorful, and still be a very impactful and powerful leader. And that, owning that, that's what led me do a career change from a manufacturing side head leader, then to be a COO in the business, ended up being a VP in HR, leading global talent acquisition. But it's being very confident of what are my superpowers and leading with it.
I love that. So Melanie.
Absolutely. I agree 1,000%. I mean, Jenny is amazing at this. And I think the perspective that I have just coming out of corporate, I think that one of the things that I have recognized within myself and within other Latina leaders is this idea of multicultural fluency, right? We have what it takes to work in this global virtual environment. We know right now, the way that business is expanding, there's no way that you're ever going to work in a monotone type of environment, right? So we have this natural ability, because we have been bridging two worlds for so long, as part of how we were raised. We have the ability to be agile, to adapt to different environments, and be able to adapt while still holding on to who we are, right? That's the piece that we really have to figure out. Well, then we'll get to that question a little bit later, but making sure that we're staying authentic to ourselves while we can be adaptable to the environment, because we're so good at understanding what it is to, not fit into the conversation. It also helps us to invite other people into the conversation, to recognize those signs when you're in a meeting, for example, right? You're talking to somebody from a different team or from a different country who doesn't necessarily feel comfortable. We have that tendency to be able to recognize those things and call them in and invite them into the conversation, which I think is amazing. We don't just adapt to different cultures. We translate, we connect, we lead across all of these different nuances of what global business really looks like.
I'd love to add to that real quick.
Yes.
I think also, like, Latinas sell themselves short, right? We often kind of self-doubt ourselves. We question ourselves. We are the problem solvers. We find solutions. I think that is a natural gift within our community, because we have to figure out how to feed the family. We have to figure out how to make ends meet. We have to figure out how to stretch a dollar, when we're in those positions. So we are solution driven. And there are many Latinas out there that have solutions or ideas, maybe for their companies, and maybe they're not received well, or maybe not sharing that, so I think we need to own the fact that we are problem solvers, and we need to share those solutions that will support organizations or build whatever you're building. But I think that is a natural gift and a powerful superpower that we possess.
Thank you.
I'm going to add into this too, because this was something that gets me really I'm listening to y'all, I'm getting all fired up, because it's stuff that you can't learn in business school. What we bring to the table cannot be taught. It is the lived experiences that we have, right? To Sandra's point, I remember translating for my mom, or filling out documentation, or going to my brother's IEP, right? Learning how to navigate systems that weren't really designed for us. And I think because it is not a traditional experience, we don't validate it, or we don't put a value on it. But really, we have an unwavering work ethic. And I'm not talking about just being a hard worker. We are creative. We are solution driven. We are problem solvers. Like we're gritty and tenacious and resourceful. And so we can pick up on the cultural nuances. So we need to, like, I would say to everyone, write down a list of all those experiences and look at, like, how does that translate into the workplace? And there was just a LinkedIn report that came out, I think maybe today or in the last couple of days. And one of, like, if you look at it, of course, AI was at the top, but the other skills were public speaking. It was adaptability, conflict management, communication. These are all things that come natural to us. And so we need to start leveraging it because, again, these are the skills that it doesn't matter if you went to Harvard. Some of these are not taught in Harvard, right? This is the lived experience, and you can't put a price tag on that.
And I just have to say, Ruby, I agree with 1,000%. What I'll add is we have to learn how to flip the narrative on some of those things, because a lot of those things that you mentioned are things that people put us down for, right? Like, you had to rub 2 pennies together to make, ends meet. Yeah. And I did. And I'm resourceful, and I know how to, make things happen in the work environment. But that also means I need to learn that when resources are available, I need to be able to use them. So there's a lot of layers to it. But the fundamental thing I would add is understanding that all of those things that we go through are not bad things. We have to understand the other perspective of, this is why it's amazing. And that's on the first question.
No, this is a great question. And I was kind of looking at the comments too. And, thank you, Perla Nunez. She shared, we need to stay true to ourselves. I think that's really true. But I'm listening to all of you. I'm looking at these comments, and I'm sitting here in this space of, we're making amazing contributions, whether it's in corporate America or in other industries. But especially in corporate America, if we're only sitting at 1%, something's not working. And I know that we have a lot more time on this conversation, but I'm just sort of sitting with that to say, okay, look at these amazing Latina leaders. How can we only be at 1%? But we need to recognize that. We need to continue to show up, but we really need to tackle that. So, all right, the next question. What do you think some of the barriers are for Latinas, and how can we overcome them? So I'm going to go ahead and get started with Sandra.
Some of the barriers, I'll start with self-doubt. Okay, we need to stop doubting ourselves, and we need to lean in for sure. When it comes to, ideally, barriers are in multiple ways, right? There's barriers within the workplace, and then there's barriers as entrepreneurs and business owners. So I'll just kind of cover a little bit. I've been in rooms where I was the only Latina. I've been in a boardroom where I was the only Latina. And I remember the ideas were going around the table and just being silent, thinking, why don't they do this? Or what, I'm sure someone's going to come up with that idea. And I felt I couldn't speak up at that time. I was too shy. I was too like, well, who am I? I'm just a Latina in this room full of grown men that are not of Latin descent. So I doubted myself in those moments. But years later, and not that many, like maybe a year or two later, when I kind of started like, wait a second, I have ideas that are working, have been working and generating the organization money. I think it's important that we just realize that, I think it's important that we find ourselves in a position where we understand our contributions at those tables, and we become brave and we become courageous and we own that power, because staying silent in moments is not going to get us anywhere. It's not moving the ball anywhere.
It's not,
especially right now.
Yeah.
In this time,
Yes.
it's not the time to be in the shadows. It's not the time to shrink back. It's not the time to, downplay our Latinidad. Like, no, instead, this is a time where we need to be more forward and more vocal and more visible.
Yes. Can I add?
Yeah,
So,
yes, please.
I'm so excited here. To your point, Sandra and Ruby, I think one thing that we can do so much better as Latinas is owning our narrative, because there's so many times that out of respect, which is a really strong value in our community, we let others like lead the narrative. And I remember many times people say, "Oh, you're just too nice, Jenny. You're too nice." Actually, I had a leader who said, "You're so nice that I don't know if I can trust you with a difficult job." Even though I had all these like really hard roles, I had the experience, I had outcomes and everything. Finally, I found the courage to say, you know what? It's not that I'm nice, it's that I care. And because of that, I'm a phenomenal inclusive leader. And that's why I've been able to do leading all these organizations. So we can do much better about leading our narrative, owning our narrative. And the other thing is that I am a big believer that what you focus on expands. So you choose, right? What's the narrative you want to do? Is say, oh, poor us, we're Latinas, we're women, double whammy, or hey, we're Latinas and we bring triple, quadruple de sazon, right? And we own it and we make impact whatever we want. So I'm going to do that.
So, Melanie,
I
what do
love
you think the barriers? What do you think the barriers are, and how can we overcome them?
and I think that the barriers evolve, right? So I think about it at different phases. Like early on in your career, it could be things like, so as a first gen white collar person, coming into the workforce, it was about understanding workplace norms. Like I didn't even know like what's going on here. Like nobody in my family had ever worked in an office building before. I didn't know what a mentor was. I didn't know how to figure it out. And I had to find somebody to help me understand what that really looked like. And it took a little bit, honestly. At the beginning, it's a little bit about getting over being humble. It's about speaking up, and it's about understanding how to be helpful in strategic ways, being non-confrontational while still managing conflict. All of those things, being strategic in how you network, like being social and extroverted in a strategic way where you can be a connector and understand people, resources, ideas, etc. I think as you rise kind of more mid-career and you're going through different levels of leadership, it's about lack of sponsorships, lack of networks, right? We have a lot of mentors. We start gaining those people that we're asking for help from and are giving us more advice and helping to lead technically some of the way. But then you get into this idea of who's talking about you when you're not in the room, who's advocating for you for those projects or for those jobs, and all of those things. And then within senior leadership, I think it becomes more of that prove it again bias, right? Like you've gotten there, like Jenny mentioned, I did enough to get here, but I have to prove myself over and over and over again in order to stay relevant as a strongly recognized leader who is, identified as somebody who's actually doing the same thing as somebody else next to me. What I have recognized in working with a lot of senior leaders, CEOs, SVPs, doing all this work is nobody knows what they're doing. Everybody's trying to figure it out. Like really, like nobody knows what they're doing. Okay. So when you get there, I think that Latinas tend to be really nervous and scared, like oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm doing. But también nobody else does either. So
That's true.
it's
I'd love to add to that real quick. I love that you mentioned network, Melanie, because that's one of the reasons why I started United Latinas. I would go out networking, I'd hit up all the chamber events, and I'm like, where are the Latinas at? Why are they not showing up? Why are they not here? And that led me to start United Latinas to problem solve, right? To say, hey, we're going to get together. We're going to learn those soft skills that we need so that we can be empowered and power up the community. I do want to answer one question that came in the audience about speaking up and no one listens. How do we get people to listen to us, Amalia? I want to say, like, speak like you mean it. Sometimes when you have an idea, you may speak it like, I have an idea. No, speak like you mean it. Speak with conviction. I think is the best advice that I can give on that. Is we have to own the fact that we have good ideas, and even if they're not good, that we have an idea and we want to contribute to a conversation. Because to Melanie's point, all of those men in that room that I was sitting with, they didn't know what the heck they were doing. So
well, you know what? You all dropped some good gems here. I was like trying to write as fast as I could, but I really loved about the self-doubt piece, and a lot of that, I thought about imposter syndrome because I hear that a lot. But I do remember when I was hosting a session, Leading Latinas is Talking, with Dr. Angelica Gutierrez. She's a professor out of Loyola. She coined the term imposterization. She realized that, and that was like a light bulb for me, because early in my career, I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough. Why am I here? They're going to find out I'm not that smart. I would have all of that in my head. And she said what she's learned in her research, and she said, Anna, part of it is that you were in spaces that were not welcoming you, that were not creating a sense of belonging. So it wasn't always about you per se, it was about the environment. And so that's when she really did a lot of her research on imposterization. And yes, I saw that from Amelia, and I agree with you, Sandra. And the other opportunity is, who are your allies in the room, right? So if I'm in a meeting with Sandra and somebody cuts her off, as an ally, like, build your board of directors of allies. I'm going to speak up too, to say, I'd like to hear what Sandra, I'd like her to finish what she's saying. How can we support each other in those rooms, right? Statistically, women are interrupted more than men, and that's something that I had to really learn to work with. And what else came up? And sort of cultural norms. Like, I didn't have a clue when I started in my career. Like, I didn't know anything about political savviness. I didn't know, there's so much things I didn't know. and like you, Sandra, I created Leading Latinas to create that work. But all of these are critical elements in the workplace. And, how do we move from that 1% to a double-digit number? I hope soon. But no, this was a really good. And thank you, audience, for all of your comments. We know that this is a hot topic. Allies and sponsors, yes, and yeah, for that. Okay.
Anna, can I just add very quickly to what you said? One of the things you said is this idea of imposterization. And I want to connect that back to what we were talking about earlier around the environment's changing, right? We're in a huge environment where DEI is becoming a bad word. It's rolling back in some organizations. I do think that it is like being amplified more than it really is, because there's a lot of organizations that are still doing really great work.
Yes.
But I will say that part of what we've lacked on is we've done a lot of work on inclusion training for, creating seats to check the box to say, I added a Latina to the board. We have not done a really good job around supporting leaders who are already there in making space and giving up power. Or giving up enough, whatever it is, to allow for those voices to be at the table. And that is what is causing this imposterization and really the conflict of, you want me to bring my voice to the table, but you're not making space for it. So that's why it's a fight, right?
Yeah. And I think part of what this journey is going to be is that, again, we're gonna have to get comfortable with being onlys. Being that only. I was the first Latina executive director where I work. I wasn't only. So not only did I feel that I had to work harder than my non-Hispanic, non-Latina colleagues in demonstrating my competence, I felt like, I also need to perform in such a way that it keeps the door open for more Latinas to walk through that door. But until the 1% materially changes, unfortunately, we have to be those pioneers. We have to be those leaders to stay in those rooms, even if they're not comfortable, and make space for them, make space for the next generation.
So I know we have a list of questions, but can I ask you?
Huh?
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, sure. Okay.
It's along these lines, because being the only, and for those of you who have also been executives in the room, we talk a lot about soft skills. We talk about the skills that it takes to be a good leader, some of which are things like being okay with your employees making mistakes and helping them to learn from mistakes, or different things like that. But as a leader, as an only in the room, can you share a little bit about your experience in being in the spotlight and feeling like you could do those same things, like you could make a mistake and still learn from it as a Latina leader in the spotlight?
Yeah, we got to get comfortable with making mistakes. I think we have to recognize that we're on a learning journey. No matter, I don't care if you're the CEO, I don't care what your role is. We're all on a learning journey. Every day is an opportunity. And I was on a panel yesterday for Women's History Month, and one of the questions, and it could be even one of our questions that we can share in this group, is, what would you tell your younger self? Well, I would tell my younger self, don't be so damn hard on yourself, because early on, I was so like, if I made a mistake, I'm thinking about it that night. I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my God, I should have said it. I was so hard on myself. But at the end of the day, we all make mistakes. Mm-hmm. And then, you sort of think, what did I learn from that? What is this teaching me? And you move on. Because I don't care what race, ethnicity, gender, however you identify, we all make the mistakes. Do we feel a little bit more pressure because we are onlys? Yes, but I've kind of gotten better at saying, okay, I made a mistake, move on.
Yeah. That's a be human, right? Be human. And
Yeah.
when you're a role model, which we're all striving to be, so we can bring other people, open doors and things like that, and we want to do the behaviors that we expect from people too. So I love that question, Anna. Do you mind if I answer from my side?
Let's do it. Let's everybody give it a chance.
We were going to get next.
Yes. We're just going with it. Only throwing us, of course.
I can tell little Jenny, right? And something is like, be okay and have fun breaking that box. So, like, I don't know about you guys, but I was born raised into like, be secure, be safe. And it's almost like we have esta cajita que estamos aquí and we're so scared, kind of what Sandra was saying earlier, of like stepping out. So, what would people say? Or like, oh, what if I fail? Right? And so we stay there and nothing good comes from things that are stagnant. So I have realized that success is not a role. Success is not a dollar amount. Success is not the number of likes you get in a post. Success is growth. And as long as you're growing, you're winning. But you have to be okay being courageous. And that doesn't mean being fearless, but it's taking that action in spite of fear and being okay getting out of that comfort zone. Two things are going to happen. It's like a salsa, right? Either works and then you're salsaing up, right? Or it didn't work and you learn. So you're going to take a salsa step back, but with what you learn, now you're taking two salsa steps up, right? So as long as you're moving, I mean, nothing is a straight line, but as long as you're moving and have fun with it, right? It's like, be okay stepping outside of that box, because then you get to, it's not just what you achieve, but the person you become and the impact you can have.
So good.
I love that. Ruby, what would you tell your younger self?
I think it's very, very similar. I wish I would have taken more risk. I think about 3 times in my career where I was offered roles in other states and I turned them down because I didn't want to leave. And and they were all great opportunities to move up, but I just wanted to stay in my comfort zone, right? And so I think it's very similar, is like, take bold risks, take bold action. Like, it's okay if it doesn't work as long as you learn from it. And one of the things that a lot of women come to me specifically about is they want more confidence, right? And so they want the confidence so they can go out and do whatever the thing is. And what I always say is, you don't actually need confidence. You need to build your courage muscle. Because when you build your courage muscle and you start doing the thing and you keep doing it and practicing, then you start to develop the competency, and that competency is going to help you develop the confidence. But we're always just looking for the feeling first, and you've got to take action, right? So that, like, I look back and I'm just like, I would have put myself outside of my comfort zone. Okay. Yeah. I just would have taken more risk and put myself outside of my comfort zone. And that's what I encourage others to do too, is, do it scared. And, courage is contagious is the other thing. So do it in community, right? Because then you can be supported by community.
No, I love that, because again, statistically, women take less risks than men. And we've got to change that. So I love that messaging that you're providing, and doing it scared. And I actually did that. I was a manager and I wanted to be a director. Kind of sounded good. Did I know everything about it? No. And then I learned to plant seeds. I learned to start saying that out loud. And then when I actually got the opportunity, I was like, oh my God, what's happening? But I did it scared. And then I thought, I made it more scary than it really was, to actually do it. But I love that advice. What about you, Sandra? What would you tell your younger self?
I love what everybody has shared because sometimes we want to wait till we're perfect to do that thing for the first time. I mean,
right.
it sounds so crazy, but we think that way. Like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's not, unless I'm going to be perfect, I'm going to, fail at that. But to Ruby's point and to everybody's point, like, we have to work that muscle. We have to just do it. And you know what? Do it with, all right, I'm going to mess this up. But you know what? I'm going to learn from this. And, believe it or not, you are much better and you are much greater than you believe you are, right? We are our own worst critic. So stop. I would tell myself, stop being so critical of yourself, because you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be willing. Go into everything like, I'm here to make mistakes, guys. I'm here to make mistakes, and I'm going to do this out loud, because like we said earlier, everybody is trying to figure it out. This is life. We are here trying to create the version of us and the version of our life that we want to create. This is much deeper than the physical. Okay, well, that person's going to judge me, or, I'm going to look like a fool. Embrace that. And the moment we let go of all of those fears and we embrace the fact that we may screw up, but you know what? Tomorrow's another day and I'm going to get better for this, so. And just embrace that. Be your true self. Show up with your ideas, contribute your ideas, and let it flow. The opportunities will come to you the moment that we embrace that idea and we're like, I know my ideas are good. The universe will find the people that receive as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. I realized kind of midway through my career that the only person holding me back was me. That was the only person really holding me back. I was the one saying, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, what are you thinking? I was that person. And once I started to really challenge that voice, then that's when I started. Well, then I relaxed. And then all of a sudden opportunities started. But yeah. Okay.
Do you mind if I add something? Because this sounds like super awesome and #motivational. What day is today? Thursday. But I think I mean, it's true. And I'm not saying it's not true. It's true, everything we're saying. But I think something will help people to get that courage is connect to a deeper why. Because if we all do it because of what I get, is really easy to stop, right? Or double guessing ourselves. So if you connect to a deeper why, as of why you're going to go for it, as of why you're speaking up, as of why you're, owning your narrative, it's going to help you a lot. Like when I speak, I used to be like, oh, my perfect English, which is not my first language. And then I will screw up, right? Like, no, I'm going to there and help the audience. And even when I come up with words that do not exist in the English dictionary, and I know because people are like, what she said, I'm okay with it. We have fun with it, but I'm not worried about my perfect English. I'm worried about the impact I'm having and what I'm trying to convey to the audience. So I just wanted to share that.
No, I love that.
You're a genius coming up with your own words. I mean, I think that's genius.
Nobody knows what they're doing anyways, so
that's right.
I'll figure it out.
All right. So before we started our session today, we were sort of talking about, what can we do? What are some ideas that we have and we can share with people here to bring our community closer? There's a lot of amazing Latina organizations, people doing great work like all of you. We talked about, how can we collaborate more? But how do we bring our community closer that includes Latinos? Any thoughts or ideas and I can start maybe with Melanie. Melanie, thoughts?
I love that question because I think that as a community, we have a lot of opportunity to learn how to support each other differently, right? I think one of the things that is instilled in us early on is this idea of independence, because we have to figure it out. We have to figure out, how to make things happen. A lot of times that's on your own. Like you're going to study on your own, and you're going to, earn your grades, or you're going to, make the budget happen, or translate, or do whatever it is on behalf of other people. And we don't, even though we're a culture that thrives on community, it's also somewhat lonely in figuring it out by yourself. So I think we need to rework that a little bit and figure out how to do a lot of the things that we're doing now within community overall. Shout out to Ref for bringing us together. He is a master of collaboration and bringing people together in general. But he is a great example of allyship within the Latino community. Particularly, this panel is a great example of that. But he also is really great at making sure that we're connecting across ideas, across perspectives, and different norms, shall I say. And so he's a great example of that. And we definitely need more of that. I think as Latinas within ourselves, it's also about making sure that we get comfortable with being uncomfortable and asking for partnership and collaboration. I'm not going to say asking for help, because we don't necessarily need the help, but we do. I think when we create these collaborations and partnerships, we can amplify what we're doing even more and putting it into different environments that maybe we're not already in. Mm-hmm. And I think the other side of that is also thinking about amplifying our economic power. So we have talked quite a bit about like the data that's out there, and thinking about, right, the Latino GDP and all of the things that we know to be true in the data that UANA put out and some of these other greater organizations put out. But it's also about taking that GDP and returning it within our own community, like investing in ourselves, investing in other Latino organizations, investing in partnerships, right? If we know that we are Latinas that are successful and able to do great things for great people, how can we support other Latinos and Latinas coming up behind us, whether that is through sponsorships for leadership programming, or offering stuff out into the environment, or even going shopping. Like I will admit, I am a shopaholic.
Me too.
And I have had to learn lately how to get out of convenience and shop small. And it is a struggle for me. Like, where do you buy a Nerf gun for an 11-year-old that is not Walmart? That was a hard one for me. So anyways, I take it back to collaboration, this idea of radical collaboration, figuring out how we work across boundaries and supporting one another.
Yeah. I think, for me, as far as Latinos, when I first started leading Latinas, I just had it in my mind that obviously Latinas, but I got an email from Ron Gonzalez, who was the prior mayor of San Jose, and who is currently the president of the Hispanic Foundation of Silicon Valley. He had sent me an email, and it was so funny. He said, "Oh, is it okay if a Latino," he bolded the O and he underlined the O, "can a Latino join Leading Latinas?" And I thought, I have to think about this for a minute here. And then I said, yes, because we need the allies, right? We need people to help promote and amplify the work that we're doing. And recognizing that allies can be very powerful, just like Ref, just like the kudos that you just gave Ref. We need those allies, right, to help promote us. So anybody else that would like to add to that before we move to probably our last question, one of our last questions?
I'd love to add to that. I love that that concept, right? I think it's important. People, we are United Latinas, right? And that's not a siloed organization. Yesterday, I'm looking for partners like Leading Latinas, like other groups that are doing what we're doing similarly to what we're doing, because we are building communities in our own spaces. But back to the GDP number, where are we spending our money that's really making an impact within our community? We are not. That money is going outside of our community. $1 in the Jewish community goes 11 times over and stays within the community. With us, it's less than 48 hours. It's gone. So we do figure out ways to shop small. We do need to elevate Latino-owned products and services, because we do need to find the Latino Walmart, right? The Latino-owned Walmart, right? Because we need to build those alliances. And I'm always looking for other Latina groups that say, okay, let's do something together, because how many more Latinas can we impact together? My door is always open. I want to work with groups. Next week at the conference, you'll be surprised. There's going to be some great collaboration there, because when you have two people that have the same mission statement, we are still a small growing population here. When we come together, we can be the example for other people to say, you know what, it's not your thing. It's not me and you're do you and I'm going to work on my business. No, I want to work with everybody. I want to see how much we can really elevate our community and how much noise and impact can we really make, because there is a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do, and we can't do it. One person cannot do it. 5 people cannot do it. It's hundreds of us, thousands of us coming together that says, you know what, we're in this together because we understand each other. We understand that cultural conditioning that we've all grown up with. Now, let's change that. Let's change the world. We change the world by setting the example, by coming together and doing things together.
Yep.
And that means we also have to get out of the scarcity mindset too, right? Because I've been very fortunate to have, you know, people like y'all who are very much collaborators and partners and, you know, like-minded in terms of, you know, abundance. But there are, you know, sometimes, you know, I think of the George Lopez, I don't know if everyone heard the George Lopez incident, right? Where there was an up and coming other Latino comedian and George Lopez kind of like, you know, gave him the cold shoulder and, you know, said that, you know, he wasn't working as hard for it or whatever. And so we get into that scarcity mindset of thinking there's only one seat at the table, for example, right? And we have to be in abundance. Like, it does us no good to try to keep other Latinos out or down. It really does take opening the doors and partnering and bringing our collective power and voices together in order to mobilize change. So that is something that we have to be really intentional about, working on, you know, the scarcity mindset and realizing I'm here with everyone here is like a coach, right? But I don't see you as like, I don't see anyone as competition. I think, oh, wow, like, that's more people we get to serve because Jenny has a message that's different than Sandra's, that's different than Dr. Melanie's, that's different than Anna's, right? That's different than mine. We all bring our own unique flavor to it, and there's enough impact that we can make. And so let's support each other instead of be the barrier to one another.
Ruby, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I like the analogy that sometimes we want to keep. As we had, and I shared this with Dr. Melanie in the past. Like, it's like I'm holding a candle just for me, right? Because it's my thing, but I can barely see my feet. But then now you have a candle that I'm gonna light up. So now the flame is a little bit bigger, and now we can see it's 2 of us, and there's a little bit more room. And now Sandra jumps in, Dr. Melanie, Anna, even Ref, right? And now we could kind of like, oh my goodness, we have a whole building that we can make so much impact. Because together we can do so much more. And then the other thing I want to say, we don't have to overcomplicate it. Like, you can start with a reach out in LinkedIn, with a meeting. You don't need to create a company. You don't need to create a fancy podcast. It starts with like, hey, Melanie, I see that you do this. Can we meet? And an idea spark like that. So don't overcomplicate it. Just go for impact.
No, I agree, because our future generation needs us to do that. And nobody, and, you know, and I love what we all do. At the end of the day, we have the same goal, which is the success of the for current and future generation of Latinas. We might come at it a little bit differently, but at the end of the day, our goal is the same. So, oh my gosh, we are running out of time. I don't want to jump into another question. But I do want to ask you, it doesn't have to be one word. It could, and, you know, what would you like, and you'll each take a turn, what would you like to leave? Could be sort of what you're thinking or anything that's coming up from your in your organization. What would you like to leave with the audience? So I'll start with you, Ruby.
I I would want to say, like, just embrace your power, own your power, like, be the warrior that you are. I talk a lot about, like, we need less good girls, less of the, being nice, and we need more women warriors. And what I mean by that is I'm not just talking about like the hustle hard and the resilience on always being hyper independent and strong, but I'm talking about like the healthy integrated version of women warriors, where it's like, the Wonder Woman's, right? Like, she has a higher mission and calling and wants to make impact. It's about legacy. And so I'm like, that's the thing I would say, is just like tap into that inner warrior and own that power energy.
Mhm.
Thank you. Okay, Sandra.
I love that, because we are our ancestors were warriors, guys. So tap into that. I would say audacity, right? We need to just be audacious in life, because life is too short. You don't want to live, and then regret not doing, not attempting, not speaking up, not saying something. Be audacious every day. Take the risks that you can take, because you're going to learn from them, you're going to evolve from them, and you're going to make the world a better place. But we need to stop thinking that the world is limited, or our opportunities are limited. The only person that limits you is you. We are the ones responsible for that, and we need to break the chains from thinking that we're waiting for the right moment. We're waiting for the everything to open up for us and everything to be perfect. We are the ones in our own way, and we need to get out of our own way and just be audacious in living, be audacious in the things that we attempt, be audacious in speaking up, raise your hand, do the thing, partner up with Latinas, with Latinos, build your network, build your alliances, and together you're going to find solutions. You're going to find your people that's going to say, you know what, you have an idea, I have an idea. Let's make that into a thing. Let's build that thing. But be audacious every single day. Own the courage, especially in moments like today, where we have what's happening, in our country now more than ever, where people are being shushed, where people are being told to not say anything, where the word Latino or Latina is like, I don't even want to say it, because they're tapping stuff, and something's going to happen to me. Now more than ever is the point. That's what this is trying to do. We have to raise our voices even louder. We have to talk about who we are. We are deserving. We are, our ancestors are of this land. We belong here, and we need to not go away. We need to be louder than ever.
I love that. Okay, Melanie, Dr. Rodriguez.
Ooh, se me fue. I would say invest in yourself. So I think that, and whatever that looks like for you, I think that investing in yourself monetarily, from the sense of investing in a program or investing in something that is going to be good for you, whether that's a degree or a certification or a coaching program for any one of us. I think that find the coach that works for you. Investing in yourself is the number one thing that you can do for development, for advancement. But that can also look like, investing in yourself does not necessarily mean spending money tampoco, right? There are so many free resources out there. Investing in yourself also means understanding the data. It means connecting with people and understanding what wellness looks like for you, understanding what happiness and joy and success look like for you, because it's not a thing. It's a state of mind, and it is the kind of person that you want to grow into being, as opposed to a position on the org chart or a thing that you want to buy in the future. And understanding what that looks like takes a lot of inner work that we were not always taught to do. And so invest in yourself, spend the time to know yourself, and spend the time to know how you're getting better at anything is going to help you along the way.
Thank you. Well, you're going to bring us home, Jenny.
I'll go here. Be an intentional unicorn, because at the end of the day, that's where you shine at your best. And whenever you embrace your authentic superpowers, the confidence and growth on the other side is totally priceless. Watch out. I'm not saying to be like, I'm going to be me, like it or not, because that doesn't serve anybody. So be intentional. That's why it's intentional unicorn, where you can inject the how and when your superpowers for the bigger good, right? For the bigger good. So you can find me in social media. I'm daily putting a lot of content under Intentional Unicorn. So you can also be an intentional unicorn.
Thank you.
I love
Well,
it. And can I just share the speaking
Yes.
effect out now? It's a public speaking book. It's going to help
Okay.
you go from no talk and fear to being confident, whether you're speaking at meetings or speaking on stage. So that's available as well. So.
Well, thank you so much. So, audience, thank you so much for being here. What did these amazing leaders leave you with? So, Ruby talked about sort of what was this? I can't even read my own writing.
Be intentional.
Be intentional. Sandra, be audacious.
Yes.
And then we heard invest in yourself, be intentional. So we also want to thank Ref for organizing this today, for being an amazing ally, for being an amazing Latino leader. And I want to keep our speakers on, so please don't hang up, speakers. We're going to stay on for a little bit. We want to thank everybody who joined us here, and we'll see you again next time. Gracias.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you, Anna.
You're welcome.